Hey there! So, as of May 16th, 2022, it's officially been 2 years since I began Cascade. Now, honestly, I haven't been putting out as much Half-Life content lately as I was before. I'm kinda trying to move the channel more toward analysis content rather than the strict, simplistic reading of facts that the Cascade series has been for the most part. My plan was to release one Cascade and one video on something else I was passionate about each month, but I also decided to do a series of massive videos on a Half-Life iceberg, which have also taken up a lot more time. After these videos are finished, I'm going to get back to Cascade, with a greater focus on analysis of story and gameplay and my thoughts on the series, though they'll still have all the fun facts and pre-release moments and all the lore bits you've come to expect. Topics will probably grow larger overall, less episodes on individual weapons or enemies aside from the really cool ones, and more on greater concepts like the weapon system in Alyx, physics in Half-Life 2, and stuff I have a lot to say about like Ravenholm and the Hunters. Oh, also, I plan to continue releasing my non-Half-Life content a bit more regularly too. Check out some of those if you haven't already, especially the Binding of Isaac video, please. And before we get to the Q&A, I'd like to dedicate another moment to those we've lost over the previous year. The Glock by murdering a security guard. Now, starting with the Glock, I find that visually, it's by killing a friend is just one small way the game.
Make sure you don't
Get him killed and take his gun until he opens the door for you. This is possible because hugs and does not answer to her name. All very helpful information.
Poor bastard.
You must kill me, random Pittsford.
It was going to be Kleiner until Valve told Gearbox that they had plans for that.
I hate to say this, but you must kill it. Here we come,
What in particular makes Half-Life as a series appeal to you as a series of games and stories?
I think it has this perfect blend where it's a very linear series, the story plays out exactly the same every playthrough, and the levels are all very tightly made to lead you down a certain path, but it encourages exploration of the mechanics within these specific areas. There are often a lot of ways to cover different areas and get through them, and enough weapons to keep it all interesting.
Would you ever stream/make consistent content about indie games? If no, why not?
I'd certainly stream them. Unfortunately, small topics just don't get a lot of interest on YouTube, so indie games are usually not going to happen. Again, I did this big video on Isaac, one of the largest indie games out there, and nobody was really interested. Same goes for mods, though my plan there is to do a single video talking about every major mod release throughout the year, sometime in the holiday season. Not to say I care about views above everything else here, but when I have topics I'm really interested in that will also grow the channel, it's pretty hard for me to not just do those instead.
Do you plan on making videos about other boomer shooters?
Probably not, though I'm considering a video on some of the games people say are similar to Half-Life, like Unreal and Marathon. Most boomer shooters don't interest me. When it comes to my enjoyment, FPS games and their structure kinda peaked with Half-Life 1 after a few years of boring keycard hunts and have since gone downhill with bland cover shooters and, more recently, games trying to emulate the boomer shooters. Just not for me personally.
Do you watch movies on your
fucking telephone? Get real.
Often. Honestly, most of the movies I watch nowadays are in theaters or in bed. There's plenty of stuff that I just don't really care to see on a bigger screen, I guess.
If you ever plan to make other content in the future, what would it be based on?
I have videos on concepts like violence in media, the movie The Shining, Pikmin, and all sorts of other stuff planned out. In fact, I have this whole running list of ideas here on my desktop. Take a look.
If there is one thing you wish you did differently when you were just starting out, what would it be?
I'd have done less Half-Life videos and instead focused my channel more on analysis content, like Jacob Geller or Leadhead or something. I think YouTube's algorithm might have kinda tethered me to this one series, and it's kind of a problem.
Do you have any scrapped ideas for videos that you'd like to retry later?
A few. I was working on this video about Venom from Marvel Comics that just wasn't going well. Might take another stab at that. Years ago, I was working on this video about Kirby, and it was supposed to be about how they should do a 3D game in the series, but turned into a bad comparison of Kirby and Mario instead. And that one got somewhat far into editing before I canned it. You can still find it on my channel in the Unfinished Videos playlist. I did some fun visuals for it, but the whole concept has been rendered moot because they've released a 3D Kirby game now, and it's great.
How do you feel on the complete redesign of Aperture Science in Portal 2?
Honestly, I really don't enjoy Portal 2 at all. Someday I'll do a video on that. The redesign of Aperture is kinda cool on its own, even though I find it less interesting than the way the facility looks in Portal 1, but it just makes no sense that it exists in the same universe as Half-Life to me. Not that somewhat silly architecture is anything new to the series, but the sheer scale of the place is just totally unbelievable to me.
What did you think of the Batman movie?
I thought it was really good. Probably the single best depiction of Batman on screen to date. And while it leans a bit too far into the gritty realism for me, the way Gotham looks and feels and all the other little things give me a lot of hope for the future. I think the Batman movie I have in my head would have been cooler though, so WB or Discovery or whoever owns this crap now, hit me up on Discord or something, you know?
Why did you not include a pre-release moment in Portal Cascade Angry Face?
That specific video didn't lend itself to the pre-release thing at all. It was about the game itself and people's reactions to it, so its development wasn't that necessary outside of the basics. I'm also just not that familiar with the history of the game outside of some key points like the Nova Prospect style and how the GLaDOS fight was finished fairly late.
What is your favorite and least favorite thing about LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, and what is something the complete saga did better?
The thing that LEGO games have struggled with the most for me is the waiting and load times caused by their design, whether it be going between planets for missions in Skywalker Saga or walking some dude around the town in the Marvel games. It's just a lot of downtime that isn't very interesting. Complete Saga probably has better levels overall. They get to cover more of the movies as full stages, though I like the way Skywalker Saga handles the stories as well. It's still my favorite LEGO game to date just because of all the new stuff it does, and the comedy is all on point. Okay, now let's wrap this up with a lightning round!
What is the best game in the Half-Life series?
Alex.
Will you ever do another Q&A video?
Yes.
What's your favorite cut Half-Life enemy?
The Hydra.
Why do you hate opposing force?
Cause it's bad and doesn't even use its premise.
How many hours have you gained playing just the Half-Life games and the expansions?
Over 897, as well as whatever I spent before I had my Steam account, as well as a bunch of mods and another 200 in Portal 1 and 2.
Purple, are you Purple? In real life, please respond to this one, Purple, please.
Yes, definitely.
Will you ever create a mod for Half-Life?
I'd like to. I have ideas.
Are you Sully?
No.
Which Half-Life game has your favorite art style?
Alex by far. It's incredibly detailed and tangible without trying too hard to be realistic. And that's about it. If you have any other questions or ideas for videos or thoughts on my plans for the future, let me know in the comments or my Discord server linked below. I've honestly been having some issues with procrastinating and not spending enough time on the videos, and before you tell me to take my time, please don't. Tell me to get my ass into gear because I really need to. And as always, thank you very much for watching.
I will see you up ahead.